Stop the video.
Yeah, seems all right.
Yeah, like you said, sometimes it just takes a while to get caught up.
Yeah.
Now, Alex, you're in Vermont. Jeff, you're in Maryland or
Maryland.
Tidewater?
Maryland.
Okay.
Man, I like how you say
Sure,
Tidewater. Miss calling that area.
One of you were. That's right. You were there. You were Checkered Flag. Is that right? North?
Yeah. No, now they call it Hampton Roads.
Yeah. They have all kinds of little special names there. Yeah, obviously with Trader and Dominion for years, and so spent a lot of time flying into that airport.
Good old Norfolk.
Great
yeah, been down there quite a few times.
Remember
I'd actually been to
the
the Dominion offices quite a few times back in the day.
Nice. He's still there. But I remember after 9/11, all the airports were on higher security, but where Norfolk's airport had like, looked like Uzis. I mean, it was a submachine gun, like two guys with submachine guns pointed down. But as you went through security, I was always like, wow, I took it pretty seriously.
I guess because you got all you got the Navy down there.
Yeah, probably got spare guys or
Navy
just
base.
love to be at the airport with them.
The world's biggest Navy base.
Yep.
Yeah, big naval base. Big ship to big repair yards.
Yeah, between Portsmouth and Newport News. It's an amazing amount of ships that come out of there.
Yep. Had some dicey landings. You get a lot of wind. Got a lot of crazy wind shifts on that runway.
Got nothing
vacation
like
there. Always wanted to.
And both airport security and wind, nothing like Burlington, Vermont. It's a border town. God, the airport security they're Gestapos.
Really?
Yeah, they're crazy.
I flew in years ago, the old the dealer.com days with Rick and Mark, and had lunch at American Flatbed. Fred, I think it was probably a couple buildings ago from where they are now, but it was like mid 2000s.
Yeah, well, they're all not at dealer.com anymore. Here we go in 3 seconds, folks. All right, hello.
Hello.
As Drew would say, yo. All right. Yeah. So, George, you're getting ready to travel, aren't you?
I am, flying out tomorrow morning, spring break with the kids for a few days. Now they're older, so instead of entertaining on the beach and digging shovels, now it's just keeping the peace, keeping everybody happy, deciding where we eat each night. Whole different.
You missed the year. You missed the years of sandcastles.
Yeah, much easier. Yeah, I did them to do. I was the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah, Drew, if you've never been on, just reading this comment, if you've never been to Kentucky for the Bourbon Trail, it's definitely worth it. That was my fourth visit last week. Good time, especially if you like bourbon.
Yeah, I'm very close. Cincinnati.
Yeah,
not too far away.
That's right. It was a couple hours. Yep.
And as high is a good place to get to find bourbon. You have to sell it at state minimums in Ohio, or the price is set, and so if you can find a kind of rural place, heading to a baseball game on a weekend, find Blanton's, Weller, Eagle Rare at cost. Now Kentucky they mark it up, so it's tough.
We always
there.
I think we're getting a little robot George going. Connection was getting a little funky there, George. Yeah.
He'll come around.
Yep. We'll give him a second. All right. Well, while George is doing that, maybe we should, or at least catching up, let's see, bandwidth wise. And that's not George. I think there's something, just connections in the internet.
Yeah, I think
not playing nice today.
Who knows what's going on?
Yeah. So, George, you still with us?
I am. Yeah, I can hear you guys pretty well.
Perfect.
I don't know if I'm jarbled.
Unfortunately, a little bit, but let's jump in anyway.
Mama Max.
Yep.
Can I broadcast from my mobile? Can I just switch to mobile?
You can try it. I really don't think it's your hardware, George.
Yeah, I would just stick with what you got.
Yeah, stay where you're at. Yeah.
Okay.
So, well, first off, we want to talk about GA4, where you're at that, maybe some of the new findings. I know things were a little, I guess, iffy with it a couple months ago, last time we had you on. Yeah, just like they're still working through quite a bit of the bugs. And then also the ASC standards, how's that coming along? And then definitely want to take a few minutes towards the end to talk about your CarDealster, your new mobile app. I know you had sent me a link last week. I downloaded it, was messing around with it. Seemed pretty cool. I haven't been able to jump back into it yet this week, but I had planned to do so towards the end of the day and go in there and test some features. And then we've also got a thread over in the forums where you had posted as well, just, for anyone else that wants to download the app and sort of put it through some tests and provide some feedback. So we'll touch on that towards the end of the show for sure. So
Sounds good.
What's going on with GA4? I know you're working with quite a few dealerships, getting them converted over. Just give us the lowdown on that.
Yeah, so all the major website providers are firing the ASC events, or can fire the ASC events.
That's pretty extraordinary.
So Dealer Inspire, Dealer.com, DealerOn, DealerRefresh, Synchro, they are all not only firing events, but also firing the ASC events.
Okay.
And then Chat, Active Engage, and Gubagoo are the two that are currently firing generic events, not firing ASC events. And I think CarNow is pretty darn close. I'm in contact with them fairly often. And there's a little bit of complication. I hope you guys can you hear me pretty well?
Yeah, you're fine.
Good enough.
Yep. The ASC, I continue to learn more about the standards, and I am a fan of the standards. I'm not part of the council and didn't really have a lot to do with how the standards were laid out, but I consume them and I love them. I mean, it makes our job so easy because we can go in and look and see if those events are firing. And so when a company like Active Engage or CarNow will fire an event on let's say a Dealer Inspire, a DealerRefresh website, when they fire an event, they're counting on that website, allowing them to consume the data layer, the ASC data layer on the website to grab on-page intelligence, year, make, model, the page title, page name, or even things like button color, button name, any on-page variable you could pass through the event, as a parameter, and then be able to eventually be able to turn that parameter into a dimension and pivot on that. And even, was at NADA and sat through Brian's ASC presentation, and that was even more revealing just in terms of the power. But one use case would be a call tracking company like Interactive Tel could fire an event, a GA4 event, and do a quick automatic listen and then pass through the event, whether it's sales or service or even things more granular from the conversation. So it's it gets a little hairy, but the capabilities in terms of passing that intelligence through the events is very strong. Always by far, it feels like Dealer Inspire's further ahead of everyone else in terms of the, today they are passing all, a lot of parameters events. And I think they're preparing for maybe some more robust reporting.
We had them.
Is that something the website? Go ahead, Alex.
I was going to say we had them on Refresh Friday a while back, and they were covering how progressive they were being with this and getting ahead of the curve. So that makes a lot of sense. The Dealer Inspire would be leading the pack.
Yep. And if listeners are curious, hey, I wonder if my GA4 is doing firing these events. Where would I go? So if you're looking at your screen now, just left-hand corner, click on the gear, right? You're going to be in there a lot. That's your admin menu. It's the same place the admin menu is today. And once you click that gear in the middle column for events, and just click on it, and you'll see. If you see ASC, it's sorted, alphabetically. You should see them right in the beginning. There's a little magnifying glass. You could search for ASC, and you could see if they're firing. And if they're not, and you're one of those website companies I mentioned, the major players, just send support a note and tell them that you'd like those ASC GA4 events to fire. And I'd say within a few hours or half a day, they'll start firing. And that you should do that right away, right? It's the last day of the month, perfect day to get that done for all your stores. So you have a clean April,
Sure.
Clean May, clean June, 90 days worth of tracking data when we flip over.
Yeah, that's great advice. Well, that was sort of my next question. Like, is that something that a dealership would have to call and request, or is something they're just, even for Dealer Inspire, Dealer On Cross, are they implementing that for everybody? There's no special request that needs to be made.
Right. It appears to us that Dealer On and Dealer Inspire are automatically turning those on, which is a good thing. There's no downside to firing those events. So we're often surprised. We'll go in and check a dealer, and we're all ready to email Dealer On and say, hey, can we get this? And sure enough, they're already firing. And then you can slide over to mark those as a conversion, those events. So if you did the extra mention and you're looking at your events now, any events that you click on with that little blue slider on the right, that marks it as a conversion. But be careful. As a GA4s, it's very easy to wreck things because there's no views. It used to be when you had a vendor, you could say, hey, I'll create a view and then you just have at it. You can't hurt any of my stuff.
Yep. Well,
today there are no views. So if you give anyone access above like read only, they can go in there and wreck stuff. And we've had it happen. It's depressing. Someone goes in there and turns on every one as a conversion. They think they're doing something right. And that, you just really lose a lot of good intelligence.
You think they'll bring back views or have a way to lock that to prevent that from happening?
I think there's rumors that they'll bring back views. I think yes. I mean, there's still a column over there for it, if you in GA4. So I would think so because it's really tough to kind of cohabitate in GA4 with a couple agencies and people that get in there and fool around it. So I would think so.
With the new ASC standards, what? Maybe just dive into a little bit, like how do these standards help? What exactly are the dealerships seeing once they've got this information? Because you work with this all the time. What type of decisions do you think a dealership could make depending on the results of those standards?
So I think in the near term, probably no different decisions than they made today. So it'll just be counting conversions, just like they're counting conversions today. In the future, I think when we talk about passing parameters through the events, that'll be a phase 2 where I think then you'll be able to pivot and say, CPO pages, tend to convert better than our used car pages, or that maybe not be a great example of, does this button outperform another button because we're passing the button color and the button language through the event as a parameter, and so we can tell what happened on the other end. So an example I mentioned before, but the other advantage is if you're using ASC events, like for instance, if you're looking at that list and you say ASC _click_2_call, right? Of course, that's click to call. You should slide that over and make that blue. You should also do the same thing, ASC_form_submission. Slide that over, just those two, because the website's going to be responsible for just those two initially, and eventually trade and car. Now I left trade pending out of that list. Trade pending is the only trade tool that we've tracked so far that is also doing it for 6 weeks or so. Firing events, they're generic. They start with TP, so look for TP_submit, and you can turn on your trade pending conversions. But if you're using ASC Events and you switch website companies, you switch chat providers, switch vendors, there's no hiccup in the vet firing or the lead counting, right? Since they're all naming them the same way, those events continue there, and you've got that marked as conversion. And so, having big blocks of missing data when you switch chat providers, but you to agency or your reporting company, just are a bummer to have to live with.
Yeah. Got a question from the audience around ASC. Like, what does it stand for?
Automotive Standards Council.
There you go.
That was the council that shortly, in March of last year when they announced the deadline, the July 1st, 2023 deadline, Brian Pash got a lot of energy around standards around GA4 events. He had done that with GA Universal, and it probably never 100% compliance, but I can tell you that every time we saw those CPE events, we were happy because it made life easier for us. And so I would say that he probably he did get more energy around this one, and in fact got like near 100% participation. So that's a wonderful thing as an industry, because now we know that all the different plugin providers are all going to be following a certain kind of syntax for naming these events, and it just making it easier. And in addition, that whole data layer makes it very consistent in terms of what data is going to be passed through as parameters on those events.
Mm-hmm.
I would say other industries that are having to cobble together all these different custom solutions are more hampered because you've got a million versions of the truth. I was on a call with a group this morning who's working with a third-party consulting company who wants to build like a parallel to what's being built with the ASC, and you just wonder like what's the end game? How does that help the dealer? Doesn't that just complicate things? Right. So it's these standards exist, and I think we all just have to take advantage of them.
Well, they will. You've been testing them out, and it seemed like a bunch of people came together to put that standard together. So why move away?
Yep. There are some things. It doesn't always work perfectly. So sometimes you'll make a request, and some of the events will fire, and some won't. And you just send in a screenshot into support, and they'll kind of reestablish that. So I think the website companies are also working through some glitches in making sure those things work properly. If you have multiple Google Tag Manager containers, sometimes those can fight each other, and those can call events not fire properly. But the support teams at all those website companies give us such great support, and they work to troubleshoot and fix it. So, I just can't say enough about the frontline support reps that, the trade tools, chat tools, website tools, digital retail tools.
What about telephony? Any of the call tracking companies jumped on yet?
They're listed as partners, and the call events are all standardized. Not that we've seen. I've not seen those fire yet, but they may be. Maybe Ryan Everson knows. I bet he's probably dealing with some of those.
Yep, and I believe he is.
You mentioned earlier around tagging, what UTM tag. Is there anything that needs to be changed on that front to accommodate with the new GA4?
Yes, mainly social channels. So with GA4, they introduced some new channels. One is like cross-network. That's pretty handy because that's exactly where the new VAs, the VLA ads, they live in cross-network. So do performance mix. They live in cross-network. So now you'll be able to have a nice kind of delineation and see, for instance, like Performance Max. A lot of dealers are running this, and I believe that they're wrongly consuming branded search, sneaky Google, having a lower cost per click, but just sneaking in branded keywords in there. And so I think Performance Max being broken out, you can maybe more visually see the effect on your organic search or Google Plus profile. Conversions dropping while Performance Max grows. You're like, okay, well, I'm cannibalizing my organic, GBP. They've also introduced some additional video channels. The biggest change for anyone who's UTM tagging today is all around social. So instead of today, one called social, there's now going to be organic social and paid social. And so paid social will be source Facebook, medium social, right? Scratch that. Paid Facebook will be source Facebook, medium paid, lowercase paid. There are combinations that work, but this is a simple one if you just want to internalize it. So all UTM should be lowercase. So lowercase source, lowercase paid, the medium, and then for organic social, lowercase Facebook for the source, and then lowercase social for the medium. We'll put it organic. And you're going to have to do that on July 1st, because if you did it now, you'd throw all your paid social traffic into the other channel, into the drawer, because it does, GA Universal doesn't know how to deal with that UTM. So anyway.
Yes, sounds like Drew approved.
And there's a free guide. I put it on DealerRefresh. I put a free guide on DealerRefresh if people want to. You can download a PDF that will guide you through how to make changes.
Perfect. Yeah, I forgot about that. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
You guys still hear me okay?
Alex, yeah, you're fine.
It's a little bit tough, but you're coming through.
Good enough.
All right.
Yep. So George, what's your favorite three, or your favorite even just one report in GA4 right now?
Probably my favorite is sounds kind of boring, but it's the report snapshot. So it's at the top of the reporting menu, and because I think that'll help people that sit and study page and then drill down on the individual panels. It can help you kind of understand the reporting better, because with GA4, one of the most confusing pieces is there's, in the past a lot of people love running source medium reports. Well, now there's two source mediums. Or if you run a channel report, there's two channels. So there's user channel and there's session channel. Users are all about the user, the first visit, the return visit, those sort of things. And answering those questions, who sends me the most first visitors, versus who sends the most volume of sessions. And so the report snapshot has a series of questions, and it kind of says, where does my traffic come from? Where do my most new users come? And as you drill down on those, you are taken to the actual page in GA4 for that reporting, and you've moved in the navigation, but you can see that and you're like, oh, okay. So now I know what that report's for, and it can help you kind of move around, I think, and understand it, because it's a little different. But if you're in doubt, choose session source medium, session channel, because that's sort of how you're measuring the world now in Universal. It would be the best kind of comparable representation. Or if you're troubleshooting it and you're saying, hey, I want to run parallel with GA3 and GA4 and make sure all my numbers look reasonable, use the session source.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the number one, I guess, would be report snapshot. The two would probably be explorations, going in the explorations and building that out, which is really like a report writer in GA4. And I'm actually doing a workshop at Digital Dealer, a 8-minute GA4 workshop, where I'll unpack that exploration tool and a number of other reporting. So it's going to be all about GA reporting with kind of hands-on work for people to do right alongside. And so explorations looks very intimidating, but really it's not. It's just really nice, powerful reporting tool. I don't know if I can come up with a third. Maybe all the others tie for third. It's a little tricky. It takes a little while to get to. You definitely got to continue to go back and repeat those visits to get comfortable in getting the requests answered. So,
did you say you're doing a workshop?
Yes, in Tampa. It's a 90-minute GA4 workshop. They're doing these workshops, these 90-minute workshops this year, as an experiment to try to create more really hands-on learning, to have the people leave the session and say, I learned it, I practiced it, I know how to do it. I can take this back to work. And so, yeah. And then doing another GA4 training May 24th at DMSC in Austin with Ryan and Glenn Pash. And then doing a DealerE webinar, GA4 webinar, June 7th. So if anybody wants to learn more, those are opportunities to jump in.
Yeah, I want to jump in one of those.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so are there any new features that you're really stoked about?
I would say that, you know, the piece I'm most excited about is being able to change reporting around users and, you know, really to be able to build more robust reports around, you know, upper funnel, mid funnel, you know, lower funnel. There is if you the advertising menu of GA4 on the left, it should really be called attribution. I think there's some nice attribution reports in there that can show you early touch, mid touch, late touch attribution. You know, I don't know that I've any of those have been really like surprising in terms of you know, new insight. You know, I think we know that like OEM traffic, third party classified, Facebook tends to be good traffic sources for introducing users for the first time to a website, and so those are also showing up. But I think over time those maybe ought to, you know, give you some additional insight.
Good to know.
Alex, do you have a LumaQuote all set up for the new standards?
Not totally.
Okay, I'm just curious.
But now that they're out there, we're going to take advantage.
Yeah, get that done.
Mm-hmm. We've been more focused on.
So I think firing the generic events. Firing the generic events is obviously more straightforward than the ASC piece, just because you'll need to work with the website company to make sure you can consume that data layer. That's where I'm just hearing that it gets a little more, and hopefully they're able to work through all those.
Yep. So let's see. So we got July 1st is the deadline. Is there anything else that dealers should be looking at right now to get ahead of this?
Yeah. So again, if they're unsure that they're even set up properly, again, go into GA4, click the gear in the lower left-hand corner. Again, the middle column is where you're going to be doing all your work. Go down to data stream and click that, and it should say, you know, data received in the last 48 hours. You know, at the most basic, make sure that the data is flowing. Click on your events, see if events are firing. You know, I mean, I think those are, and then marking those as conversions, as I mentioned, the ASC click to call, the ASC conversion, reaching out to trade pending, to Gubagoo, to Active Engage, and getting them to fire events. Once they are firing those events, mark those as conversions. You know, we're doing a bunch of that today, right? Last day of the month, and just trying to you know, give dealers 90-day forwarding, you know, before that deadline. So, you know, the time is definitely now. And then if your vendors aren't firing those, just get a good feel for when they'll start. We had one chat vendor come back and say, we're planning on starting the first day of Q1 or Q3, which that's July 1st. I mean, I'd just be way too late to be able to adequately test and you know, and run parallel.
Mm-hmm.
You have Ryan changing the data retention to 14 months. That's in the same column, right? So the geek icon, the middle column, go down to data settings and go under data retention and change that 2 months to 14 months.
Well, it's 2 months the default.
That setting is also not as scary. Yeah, 2 months is the default. Doesn't mean your events won't save. I mean, I think the reality of that being set to 2 months does not hurt your ability to keep long historical data on events and conversions. But nonetheless, you know, choosing 14 months makes more sense from a hedge perspective.
Gotcha. And what about privacy and compliance policies? Anything to be wary of there?
I do think it's probably, especially for larger dealer groups, it might be susceptible to legal action or people trying to make I think it's always a good idea to take a regular review of your privacy statements on your website and make sure that they're keeping pace with privacy laws. There are some settings, so like this gets really hairy, but if you're a Gubagoo customer and you ask them to turn on GA4, they will ask you for not only the GA4 ID, which is like a G number, it's G dash and then followed by a number. They'll also ask API secret, which sounds like, oh my gosh, what's an API secret? So that's another variable. The API secret can be found in the data stream. And before you can give them the API secret, you have to create the API secret. And there are some privacy disclaimers that it asks you to see you're okay with. And so I think for those, you'd want to make sure that, what does that mean? I assume the API secret is something that is part of that, assuming that ASC data layer. None of the other providers have asked for it, so I don't know that Gubagoo is doing anything specific with that. And maybe people that are more tech heavy than me would know under the hood, what's going on there. But that, I would think at least annually you want to take a look at privacy. It moved so fast last year, and I think it'll continue.
Yep. Yeah. So,
Alex, didn't you? Well, George, you're still doing a lot of search for your dealer clients, right?
Still doing what? I'm sorry.
Paid search.
We don't. We provide no agency services. We provide reporting and consulting only. We don't resell. We get some commissions, and so we're not tied to any vendor. We're just pure play reporting, consulting, and kind of analytics around that. And the reporting is probably the biggest growing part, because large dealer groups have teams of people who can interpret reports. They just Google Analytics is clumsy to use, and Data Studio is far more easy. And so setting them up with Data Studio and now Looker. That piece of it's a little more complicated. Bringing in the GA4 stuff into Looker is a lot of work. It's way more work than setting up the GA4, but we're getting that all done. And replicating all of our current reporting, and then we'd love to run parallel for at least 2 months. So we'll see how that goes.
What's Looker?
So Google bought a company called Looker a few years ago. Because I think they realized that Data Studio was not really enterprise ready and not scalable in the way they had hoped to compete with the big boys in analytics. And so they bought Looker, and then now they're transitioning to that. So their first step was renaming Data Studio to be Looker Studio. And then as I understand, Looker Studio customers will eventually be forced to migrate into Looker. We're already getting clamped down in terms of not any tokens to be able to pay for Looker Studio access. We're already starting to feel that, and so I saw some post, some comment by Ryan popping up in that. I think people have to decide: are you going to use what business intelligence tool are you going to use? And the days of free Data Studio like their way.
Yep,
gotcha.
There's that question from Ryan.
Yeah, do you need to reboot from scratch? You need to change the data source initially, and then when you go to hook everything up, you'll see that things kind of break a little bit. It depends on your reporting. I mean, we like to break out conversions by method. So like I want to know what not only your conversion rate, but I want to know what your click to call conversion rate, your form conversion rate, your chat conversion rate, because then we can benchmark you with dealers all over the country and say, like just last week we had a dealer whose click to call conversion rate was 0.3. We know that number is supposed to be 0.8 to 1.2. And so sure enough, like click to call calls to action on the homepage, not a VD, a hidden one on the SRP. And so you fix that and suddenly click to call conversion rate jumps, and you probably made life easier on consumers to be able to contact the dealer. Click to call is for most dealers is their number one conversion method. And most dealers would love to have someone call them.
Just
call them if they're
Oh yeah. So you're saying that's the number one conversion method just for mobile or across the board?
Usually, it's that or chat.
Okay. All right.
Yep. It depends. So if the dealer is doing the conversation commerce, whether all their conversion form buttons are chats during the day or all the time, then their chat percentage. We normally see chat between like 0.25 and 0.5 for most normal kind of chat installations. But when you take over the forms and it ends up being like over 1%, which is okay. But we always just want to make sure we understand that. But setting up those individual conversion methods is tough. Yep.
George, you broke up on that percentage. Do you mind saying that one more time? What was when chat takes over the regular forms during the daytime, what's the conversion point?
Normally over 1%, maybe over 1.1%.
Gotcha.
And then the other ones kind of drop it as well. They're not doing as many forms, of course, and yep. So if
my guess is a dealership
the best way to. Sorry, Jeff.
No, that's fine. I was going to say, I would assume the dealerships that implement that probably do their chat in-house, correct?
I guess so. Yeah, but for the most part, yes. They might do a bot and then maybe a third party for the first couple of chats and then hand off, maybe gracefully off to someone inside the dealership. Far better to have a live dealership employee be that response, I think, for quality of chat. I think consumers' patience with automated bot chat and
whenever I had a smaller team and had more accessibility to have people chat for us at the dealership, we had done that's been quite a few years ago. During business hours, we would wipe out the rest of the call to actions, and you still had other ways to contact a dealership, but our main call to action was to go ahead and chat with somebody live. And if you've got that ability, it definitely spikes your conversion, and obviously makes it much better experience for the customer.
Yep. As long as you're not saying like, "Hey, can I get your name real quick? What's your first name again?" Just in case we get disconnected, what's your
exactly?
And the person saying, "Has the car ever been smoked in? Can I get your first?"
Yeah, exactly.
If I called you,
hate that.
If I called and said, "What time do you close?" and they said, "Hey, I'd love to answer that for you. Can I get your first name and email real quick?" We close at 10. 10. You never would, right? So why on a chat when someone asks you a question and is engaged and it's about the car, you want to answer that and keep answering? I think that's what people may tell you that they want to do with the conversational commerce, but if the practice is not the same, the experience is poor.
Yep.
Sure is.
Yeah, the customer needs a quid pro quo. This for that.
Yeah.
It can't be all one-sided for the dealer. Yeah. Yep.
Jab, jab, jab.
Anything else on the GA4 front that maybe we haven't covered? You want to touch on?
I think that's it. I would go in and look at your events, make sure they're firing, work with your website company, and if they give you a screwy answer, just ask them to escalate it. But for the most part, I think the frontline support reps know what they're doing now, and they're getting a lot of requests for these.
Cool. Well, I've got to ask, what the hell were you thinking whenever you decided to get into the mobile / what would you call it, CRM, quasi customer tracking? I forget what you're calling it, but so you decided to do that. You build out this mobile program, CarDealster, right? What were you thinking? Why are you getting into that? What transpired into doing this?
I would say it's probably more of a hobby venture versus a business venture. It's just something that I've wanted to do for years, and just had a lot of different. It was just always interesting to me that there's no app really specifically for a rep to be able to improve how they do their job or what they do their job, or what they do in their job. And reviews are something that we push a lot because we know the dealership that has the most reviews and the highest star rating outranks their competitors in Google search. And so, we wanted to build a tool that helped car salespeople drive 5-star reviews, keeps them in touch with past customers that they may already have in their phone, and then associate vehicles with. So we try to be very careful with the tool. Like there is no mass import capability because we don't, it's not a tool for being able to import data that wouldn't be yours. It's a tool for taking anybody who's already a contact in your phone, in your iPhone. And if the dealership allows someone to message with a prospect using their personal phone and text them, then they shouldn't have any concern with basically just saving that contact, and then just doing a quick VIN scan and just associating a VIN with that. And that's really all it is. It's a thin data record, but it is a data record for the car salesperson to know, hey, here's this contact in my phone that I've sold the second car to. Here's both VINs. It'll show you all the open recalls, show horsepower, transmission. We have a Data 1 VIN decoder. We pull NHTSA recall data. We're adding a gamification feature in the next version that will allow you to kind of see where you are in the leaderboard in terms of car sold and dollar amount. And then also like a reminder, like an annual reminder to say, hey, a year ago you sold Jeff a truck. You maybe ping him back and see how that's doing. And so it's not for prospects. It's not really
okay. More. I was going to say it's more of a post sale. Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. So after you sell the car, maybe you can put this customer into CarDealster. This will just give you a thumbs reach way of keeping in contact with them. We always go to our CRMs, and most dealerships have got something set up, a birthday or anniversary. Some of them have set up to just go ahead and send something out to the customer, which usually, I don't know, probably doesn't really make much of a difference. But if you got something there on your phone, brings up the alert, you've already sold them a car, you've already have a relationship with them. What better time? Maybe just go ahead and send them a text message, maybe a quick email from CarDealster. Just the whole, that the whole process around the post sale, which granted, I mean, most salespeople and dealerships don't do the best job with post sale follow up unless it's to get them back into another vehicle.
That's a nice way of saying
it. Very, very true.
Yeah.
So it's got built that they can automatically just send the review request, and
oh, that's right.
Have that be sort of automated to do that.
Yeah. Do you find a lot of dealerships are set up on like reputation management pieces that automatically solicits the customer for a review, or you just find most dealerships aren't being proactive with it?
I think most of them are, but they're probably not taking full advantage of what they can do. I mean, reputation.com's got the marketer out there. They've got the most OEM relationships. And we spent quite a bit of time with them at NADA and made a couple discoveries. So reputation.com can fork those reviews. So for an additional $75 a month, reputation.com can fork reviews to an unlimited number of GBPs. So every closed RO can go to your GBP, your body shop transactions can go to your body shop GBP, sales and lease transactions. And even used, if you have a separate used profile because you have a separate address, you have a separate building, which a lot of people debate that with me. But I mean, we have customers that have had them for years, and they score incredibly well in Google's profile for non-branded used car terms, by the way. They can have all the used transactions go. And the advantage there is that you're having the review language is very indexable from Google. And so now Reputation is helping you be able to have an automated way to make sure that the contextual review language for body shop goes to the right GBP, so that when people search for those, and you've seen those when they'll do an excerpt of the review, the GBP things, those really help you rank. I don't know if I'm making sense with that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, I get it. I was actually going to ask you, because I think it was probably, this time a year and a half, 2 years ago that was a big thing. I'll be honest with you, I never jumped on it. But breaking out each department into your Google business and, you know, having your separate reviews, service, body shop, sales. You were, I guess you were sort of preaching that message and able to show dealerships where that was going to be pretty beneficial. I hadn't heard much. I haven't heard too many people talk about it lately. I'm glad you brought that up. Like I said, I never jumped onto it because to me it's a lot more to manage. It's a smaller ship, so I didn't see too much worry in it. But you know, if you're a dealership that's got a body shop, service shop, you know, maybe they got a expanded parts business, breaking those out, I can see where it's beneficial.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think if your competitor does that and you don't, then you definitely lose. And there's clear data that shows you that, right? So part of the, I mentioned earlier, Google Business Profile, they have an API for that, and we consume that API and we bring that into Looker Studio. And they've changed the API recently. Now they're passing keyword through there, so the search keyword. So now I can get all the search keywords for each of the Google Business Profiles from a dealership per time. So I can see that brake repair near me or oil change near me, that you're over time, that keyword is trending higher and higher and ranking higher and higher for your store. So there's just great data that helps you see how well you've educated Google in terms of what your body shop does versus your service versus your sales. And for any dealer listening who's still, I started off my NADA workshop with this explanation. Any dealership who still feels like, hey, George is crazy. You only have one business profile. If you listen to George, you're going to dilute all your reviews. Have them grab their phone and have them search for bakery near me or deli near me or pharmacy near me. And who are they going to find? They're going to find Walmart and Kroger. But they find their main listing, they'll find their deli listing and their bakery listing, because the big box retailers figured out years ago they have 12 or more Google profiles for each department because they operate in different profit centers, and there's no way they could optimize one listing where the primary was grocery and like, you can have one primary and you can have 9 secondary, and one of their secondaries was pharmacy. They'll never rank, right? Because what really matters in Google Business Profile is not your primary and your secondary categories, but your primary. Your primary matters more than anything. So if you compete against a business, their primary is body shop and your 9th secondary is body shop, you never show, they always show. And go out, and if you don't believe me, go do those tests. We do searches all the time. You have to have department Google Business Profiles. Yeah, anyway.
Gotcha. No, it makes sense. I'm glad that worked out. My biggest fear was, you'd spend all that time and energy setting it up, and history repeats itself, and out of nowhere they decide, we're not going to do this anymore. So it's like, I'm going to give it a while.
Yeah.
How many? I know you just announced the CarDealster piece. How many people have you had anyone sign up for it? What's your end goal with you hope maybe get from it?
Yeah, we've got a couple of email campaigns. One's supposed to go out this week, and maybe another one in a few weeks. I mean, from my perspective, I wanted to get some early users and get feedback to see if it could be a viable kind of break-even business. I mean, it's not even a business. It's a concept and an idea, and I want to get users on it and see if they say, well, less of this, more of this, or none of this. I mean, I'm not. It's not massive amounts of money, right? So it's more in the incubator stage to see if to salespeople find resource in this. NADA says there's 200,000 salespeople that work at new car dealerships. So not even independents, not broker. 200,000 new car salespeople at new car dealerships in the U.S. And so I imagine like maybe I might be a target. I mean, this is not for a 10-car sale a month person. I mean, I think this is for someone who really, really works their database, who probably takes themselves out of the up rotation on occasion, and just this is just how they manage their book of business. Today they do it Facebook or iPhone contacts or Excel or green bar paper. I don't know. I mean, who knows what their solution is, but great salespeople keep track of their past customers, and so it's really targeted to them, which would be a small subset of all those 200,000 sales reps.
Yeah.
I
wish I had something like that when I was on the sales floor. Yeah, I will use it for sure.
I think like one of the things that
I mean, I was using index cards.
we use the pink sheets.
Yeah.
Yeah, the pink sheets.
Wow, Sean Ray.
It's $1.99 a month, after a 30-day free trial, so it's pretty cheap.
It'd be nice if there was an integration with a sold feed, and like there was a way like they just popped in there, and then you could say, "Yep, that's, stick that one in," or you might be like, "Oh man, I really hated that customer. There's no way I'm gonna call them again." Reject.
Yeah, they're too far away.
Yeah.
Yeah, how hard is it? I mean, if you're selling 50 cars a month, it's probably not that hard. Just stick them in there.
No.
Makes sense.
George, you got a book too, right?
Yeah, so
another one, I should say.
X4.
Now, how many books do you have, or GA4? Different revamps?
3, really. Yep. So like this is GA4. This one's updated all the time. So if you look on the back page,
you want to hold that one up again, George, so you can see it. There you go.
Yep. So we update this all the time. So if you bought it today, it's probably much different than when you bought it last year. Unfortunately, it's not been enough to do a second edition, but this is a tech book. This one, for whatever reason, we sell a ton of these. This is like digital marketing for car dealers for dummies. It's kind of a soup to nuts, handbook that mainly like dealer owners or dealer group owners who read this come back to me and say, like, this allows me kind of what I'm talking about a little bit and ask good questions. And so all the definitions, all the acronyms, all the KPIs, benchmarks are all in there. And then this one is new, like 4 weeks ago. Just this, yep.
No, I was going to say that's something every GM.
Yep.
For sure.
And then this is just the second edition because Google changed the whole back end for Google's profile, and so we just had to rewrite this to. Most people can stumble through it on their own, but this one does say second edition, so you can see. But and we give away probably as many books as we sell. It's just a great resource for being able to give to a dealer, and then we just want to make them better consumers of digital marketing. And I tell agencies this all the time. If you make your dealers smarter and you show them your reporting and kind of, demystify this stuff, you'll get fired less because dealers fire agencies sometimes that are doing a great job. They just don't really know that. They don't trust the reporting, and they don't have their own reporting, and they don't feel comfortable enough. They see a good presentation, they're like, we're switching to that. And they don't know. Maybe they're leaving a good provider. But I think if you educate, you'll keep the customer longer because the other powerful thing is some of our best artist dealers, when we educate them on digital marketing, they ask us for reports we don't have. They become a real help to be able to get better actionable reporting.
Yeah, or vice versa. What you're saying, when to get rid of that agency because you figured out that they have been bullshitting you the whole time.
Yeah, as I tell dealers, like, poor quality traffic is not a spot. I mean, it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yep.
When you're looking at reports, they should anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Well, George, we definitely appreciate your time, man. It was good to get an update on GA4. I know I need to dive into it a little bit more, and get on the new standards. Make sure all that's plugged in. We've got Dealer Inspire, so from what you said, it should be pretty effortless for to check into it and make sure everything's set up right. So, and then kudos to the. I know it's just a hobby, but I thought about that many years ago. I was like, man, we need a mobile app for post sales, something where you just keep those customer tips. I always have a great way of talking myself out of doing things. So that was one of those things I just talked myself out of. So I'm glad I picked up on that, and hopefully it'll at least turn into something. Sometimes it's not even about making money off something like that. It's just about getting your name out there,
get your lighthouse,
branding yourself.
Yeah. Even the pick was fun. I had not been part of the software development in a while, and it was great working with the developers and testing it. But I still have fun. It's fun to mess with, and so hopefully enough people take it up that it becomes a viable thing. But if not, I've out of my.
You learned a lot. Yeah, you get to learn a lot whenever you're building that stuff out.
Mm-hmm.
You bet. And I'm glad you picked me, Jeff. I mean, you guys have done so much. DealerRefresh has done so much for us over the years. Troubleshooting. Whenever I get, that's the first place I head is up to the forums and just do keyword searches. So it's just a huge knowledge base there for anybody who doesn't get in on a regular basis. But glad to help you guys to partially pay back all the solutions you've given me.
We definitely appreciate it, man.
And we have no qualms about putting you out there more, George, because you always bring a hell of a knowledge. So,
well, thank you.
No, we appreciate it.
And now you got to hit the road, right?
So, pretty soon, yeah. I'm gonna power the rest of the day, and then Delta down to Clearwater, and then just toes in the sand. Can't wait.
Enjoy it.
All right, man. Enjoy it. We'll have you back on soon.
Thank you,
everybody.